Hey everybody, so it's really refreshing, I think, when somebody shows you kind of the losses that they might have. It's nice to flex. It's like, I got this PSA 10, I bought this collection, I won this, but it's like the losses are, to me, more interesting because that's the stuff that teaches you the lesson about how you're going to move forward, how you're going to, not only correct that, but learn from it. Because business is really all about just mitigating losses and learning from those mistakes. Now, this really is going to segue into why we're stopping a program, the Consignment Plus program, basically getting your cards graded and auctioned off. And the reason is because, the reason why you do a service for other people is because either you want to make money or you might maybe want to make revenue, which will eventually lead into, let's say, more eyeballs, which could bring in more, more revenue can bring in more profit other ways, right? But the Consignment Plus program didn't bring any profit, actually lost money since we started this in March, as well as didn't really bring in much revenue as compared to other avenues that we could have done. So, this came about because, if you're a C Corp or an S Corp or whatever, if you're a corporation, you need to pay the quarterly taxes. Actually, you might have to do that as an LLC, or I don't think you have to do it as a sole proprietor, but as the way we're structured here, have to pay quarterly taxes. So, basically you make a estimated guess, you kind of put the total overall profit of your company with that quarter and pay, the estimated taxes. But really the breakdown of each segment of the business is really not done, for me at least, until the end of the year. And, I said in a previous video that we have been, kind of a dead period, so I have had time to actually put together, all the numbers. And I did do that, and I come to realize that the Consignment Plus program was not profitable, actually lost money. A big chunk of that losses were like over 10 people who sent in cards, didn't get the grades they wanted, auction off, and they owed us money. So we paid the grading fees, and they still owed us money for the consignment fees, and they just ghosted. They just disappeared. That's a healthy chunk. I mean, there's somebody who has $5,000 owed, and there was $3,000, there's $2,000, several in the hundreds. So yeah, pretty not great, not great. And honestly, I've told you guys before, when we auction off like $1,000 plus cards, we lose money, but it brings in eyeballs, it brings in revenue, and there's other things that can be brought in because of that, advertising. These people, they're not looking at a $23 Caterpie, right? When they're looking at your store, they're looking at the Gold Star Charizard that sells for $1,000, right? And then it'll be like, oh, let me click into that, and then see, it's like, oh, they do consignment, maybe I want, it's an advertising tactic. But so with the Consignment Plus, it's like, well, if the profit's not there, fine. Is it bringing revenue? And it absolutely didn't. Most of the cards sold were just not. They weren't great cards. And there are people that will say, hey, well, why don't you just pre-grade it beforehand? Why don't you, see how, it's like, oh, the submission is not going to be 10s, going to send it back, or you should charge more for the service so that the people who send it in might just send in higher quality cards. Once again, I've learned that is not a good process, because if you charge more, then you're just going to lose more, because the same thing will happen over again. And if you want to pre-grade stuff, even if you pre-grade stuff and really carefully and spend a whole lot of time doing that, it's no guarantee. And on top of that, it's going to be wasting your time. It's just another time suck that is probably going to result in a loss of time and money. So the overall thing is that we're stopping Consignment Plus. It was, running since March or April, I believe. It was a good 10-month run, but the numbers just don't support. They don't bring in revenue. They don't bring in profit. And, the lessons that I learned was, I want to make this service as easy as possible. That's the biggest goal, and as cheap as possible. That's 1A and 1B of the goals. I can't tell you how many people have sent to us who have said, wait, all you do is put a note inside with your name and your email, and then you just sell the cards? Yes, that's it. You get a spreadsheet at the end that says, hey, here's all the fees, here's the payout structure, here's your money. And sending it in to get cards graded, we try to make this simple as possible. And putting these kind of things is like, oh, why aren't people pay some part of it up front, or why don't you pre-grade some more? It's like all these steps. It's like it doesn't make simple. It's not really what our vision is. So we're going to be taking that away. And the biggest lesson I learned is that if I'm going to do a service, it's got to be as simple as possible, and to be able to at least break even. So we're going to be introducing something. I'll make a separate video about that, but just to kind of, give you a look into it, we're going to be introducing kind of a vault, eBay vault, buy it now consignment thing, to where it's something that we've had access to, and the public has access to for a long time. But we've had discussions internally, and it's like we really want to be the best at one thing, because there is you can hear my dog running around here. There is what am I trying to say? There are a lot of positives to being really, really good at something and only one thing, instead of being spread out across, I accept this and this and this, and I accept this and that, and I will do this, I can do whatever. And it creates a lot of complexities that make the overall service worse. So, a few of the things why we didn't do the vault is that buy it now is just a completely different animal than auctions, number one. Number two, the titles were a little weird, but now eBay has solved that, and you can, change the titles yourself. Number three, and the biggest one for me, was that eBay Vault in its current form doesn't accept, if you have an international address, you can't buy stuff from the vault. And to me, that was like, well, that's just going to eliminate a lot of customers, right? But I had, I sent in like 20 of my own cards there, and I auctioned them off. I did sell some buy it now. They sold, relatively quickly. But then I auctioned off like 10 of them, and they went for the same prices as I would have if I auctioned them off or had them listed on the regular eBay that is open to everybody. So the titles being fixed, the international really not seeming to be a problem at all. Just, it seems like a win-win. And the biggest thing for us too was that the people who use our auctions, it's going to be like, well, we're just going to kind of cannibalize our sales. We're going to pull out the people who would use auctions, and they're just going to use buy it now. So it's like we're just pulling instant liquidity for the business, right? We're running a business, so the stuff that churns the fastest, brings in revenue, brings in profit that we can pay, the rent and pay the employees and pay the insurance and pay the, all the stuff that you have to do with running a business. And my thought process, well, that's just going to pull that out. But what I've come to learn is that there's an enormous segment of the population that just will not ever use auctions. They just only use buy it nows. So if we use a service and bring it in to where, hey, you can come through us, you can do a buy it now. It'll be listed on the eBay Vault, which means we don't have to ship stuff, which is our biggest, probably our biggest time suck is doing shipping. We don't have to ship, because the eBay Vault will do that, and do it at a really, really, really low rate. So, we want to make it as simple as possible. You send it in, it has to be over $250. I don't have the exact terms yet, but we're going to make the rate extremely low. Guys, if I charged a 0% vault fee, I would be making more than I had been doing Consignment Plus. So anything at zero is going to be, at least we get revenue then. And, and eyeballs and people who want to use a service and maybe want to have some cards auctioned that, we would make money on, So even if it's zero, it's still a win for us. It's less work because, submitting hundreds and thousands of cards to PSA, BGS, CGC, dealing with all that, having it sent back, and then scanning everything again, doing all that. It's just a whole lot of work. So it's going to be less work, less time, and we're not going to lose money. So it sounds like a win-win-win, and it's going to provide a service to where you guys can actually do buy it now. So now it's not going to be like, hey, I want my $19 card listed on there. That's not going to happen. But yeah, stay tuned for another video. I don't know when it's going to go up. Probably now is the right time to do it for us because, we had an extremely busy last 6 months of the year, especially the last 3 months of the year, to where now it's kind of slowed down as the way the seasonality works. So it might be a good time to actually introduce that. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.